You wake up after a full night of sleep, and for a moment, everything seems fine. Until you notice that the tiredness is still there. Not sharp, not overwhelming, just sitting quietly in the background, like something never fully reset. You go through your day anyway, maybe slower than usual, occasionally wondering, did I not rest enough? Or is something else going on? And that question tends to stay with you. It shows up in small moments, when you pause between tasks, when things feel slightly heavier than they should, when even simple decisions take a bit more effort than usual. It's not dramatic, which almost makes it harder to explain. Because if nothing is clearly wrong, why does it feel like something is? So you start assuming there must be a reason, something you haven't noticed yet, something you need to figure out before this feeling can go away. But what if that assumption is the problem? What if the reason you still feel tired is not because you haven't found the answer yet, but because you've been trying to find one at all? In this video, we're going to break that down carefully, not by giving advice, but by looking at what actually happens when you try to figure out something that might not work like a problem in the first place. It doesn't feel like a real problem, but it doesn't feel right either. Nothing is clearly wrong, and yet something feels slightly off. You go through your day the way you normally would. You're functioning, responding, getting things done. But underneath all of that, there's a low, constant tiredness that doesn't match what's actually happening. It's not intense enough to stop you, but it's present enough that you can't ignore it. It's like background noise you didn't notice at first, until it's the only thing you can hear in the quiet. Not loud, not urgent, just always there. The hardest states to deal with are the ones that don't look like problems. And that's exactly why it starts to bother you. Because when something feels off without a clear cause, your mind tries to make sense of it. If you were exhausted for a clear reason, you would accept it. If something obvious went wrong, you'd point to it and move on. But when there's no clear explanation, the uncertainty itself becomes the issue. It's like checking something twice, not because it's broken, but because you're not completely sure it's fine. That small doubt keeps pulling your attention back. Uncertainty doesn't stay neutral. It turns into something you feel the need to resolve. So you start trying to figure it out. You assume there must be a reason behind how you feel. Because in most situations, that's how things work. When something feels wrong, there's usually a cause. And once you find it, you can fix it. That pattern has worked enough times that it feels reliable, almost automatic. If your phone isn't working, you check the settings. If your body feels off, you look for symptoms. You don't question the process, you just follow it. You're not overthinking. You're applying a pattern that usually makes sense. But this time it doesn't lead anywhere clear. The more you think about it, the more possible explanations appear. You start going through different areas of your life: work, habits, sleep, routines, even deeper things about meaning or direction. Each one feels like it could be the answer, but none of them fully explain the feeling. It's like trying to tune into a signal that's slightly out of range. You adjust again and again, but it never becomes fully clear. When everything feels like a possible answer, nothing actually resolves. And this is where it starts to get heavier. Trying to figure it out begins to make the feeling worse. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because the process itself adds pressure. You're no longer just experiencing the tiredness. You're actively trying to fix it, monitor it, understand it. That constant attention keeps the feeling active. It's like checking if you've fallen asleep. The more you check, the more awake you become. The effort itself prevents the result you're looking for. Attention doesn't always solve a state. Sometimes it sustains it. So even when you stop, you don't really stop. You might be resting physically, but mentally you're still engaged. You lie down, you take a break, you try to relax, but somewhere in the background there's still a question running. Is this working? That question keeps the process active, even when nothing else is happening. It's like closing an app but leaving it running in the background. It's not visible, but it's still consuming energy. Rest doesn't work when it's still trying to achieve something. At that point, it stops being one feeling. It becomes a repeating pattern. You feel off, you try to understand it, it doesn't resolve, so you try again in a slightly different way. Each cycle feels like progress, but the structure never changes. It's like walking in a circle in a place that looks unfamiliar enough to feel new each time. You think you're moving forward, but you're always in the same position. The repetition is hidden because the details keep changing. And that leads to something deeper. You're no longer just tired, you're trying to fix being tired. That shift is subtle but critical. The original feeling becomes secondary. What takes over is the process of managing it, analyzing it, trying to resolve it. And that process is what keeps everything going. Like trying to smooth out water with your hands. The more you try to control it, the more movement you create. The effort to fix the state becomes the state itself. So maybe the problem isn't what you think. Maybe this was never something to solve in the first place. Not every internal state comes from a clear cause that can be identified and fixed. Some are just the result of accumulation, small things building up over time. And those don't resolve through analysis because there isn't a single answer to find, like fog that slowly forms in the air. You don't remove it by finding the source. It clears when the conditions change. Not everything unclear is a problem waiting to be solved. And this is where things start to shift. The moment you stop trying to figure it out, something changes. Not because you found the answer, but because you stopped reinforcing the loop. Without the constant effort to analyze and fix, the state is no longer being sustained in the same way. Like stepping out of a current you didn't realize you were swimming against. The moment you stop pushing, the resistance disappears. Sometimes the only way out is to stop trying to get out. If you've watched this far, something here probably felt familiar. Not just interesting, but recognizable in a way that's hard to explain. And that already says something about you. You're paying attention. You notice when something feels off, even when there's no clear reason for it. You don't just ignore it and move on. And that's why you kept trying to figure it out. Not because you were overthinking, but because you care enough to understand what's happening. But maybe you've already seen this before. There were moments, small ones, where you stopped trying to solve it and it felt a little lighter, not fixed, just less heavy. You're not tired because you haven't found the answer. You're tired because you keep trying to. So maybe nothing here was actually going wrong. What felt like confusion was just part of a process you hadn't fully seen yet. And now you do. If this helped you see it more clearly, you can just stay with that for a while. That's enough.